Recent reboots of sitcoms like Will and Grace and Roseanne made you think that it was a new thing. But Batman the Animated Series did it almost 25 years ago with Baby Doll, and we're talking about it right now. Hello friends, welcome back to the show. So glad to see you once again, and if you're new here, welcome. This is going to be fun, I promise. This is a show where we talk about cartoons we grew up on 20 plus years later. And today we're talking about Baby Doll with Batman the Animated Series, which originally aired on October 1st, 1994. And in typical Batman fashion, it's all fun and games until the end, where they really pull at your heartstrings. But we'll get into all that right after our 60-second Joker Bomb rundown of the episode. Here we go. A couple of actors are leaving a theater after a performance of Death of a Salesman, and one of them gets kidnapped by this little girl. Then Commissioner Gordon is putting the pieces together and goes, oh, these other actors are being kidnapped all around the same time, and they're all part of the same sitcom that this little girl starred in, and actually she wasn't a little girl. She had a disease that didn't allow her to age, so she was actually 20 when they were doing the show, but now she's 30, and now she's kidnapping everybody to get back because the show was canceled because she wanted to go off and do more serious roles. We cut to where she has everybody, and she all the actors, she's trying to relive all these different moments of the show, and she's rebuilt the set and all that. And there's one actor that they have not, that she has not gotten yet, and that was the cousin that came onto the show and started to kind of steal the spotlight a little bit. So she goes to capture him and brings him back to the show, and she's going to try to recreate this birthday episode where that he ruined it by pushing her face in the cake. And in doing that, she sets a bomb to blow everybody up, but he reveals himself to be Robin, and then Batman swoops in and saves the day, and they fight, and then they chase her off into this circus or amusement park area, and then she starts walking through these mirrors and seeing herself of what she could like and then look like, and then she starts breaking down and crying because she just wanted to live in this fantasy world. Ooh, I didn't mean to.
I didn't mean to.
Featuring kind of a one-off villain, Baby Doll, who in the vein of Mad Hatter or Mr. Freeze or even Two-Face is more of a tragic villain who's just motivated by kind of selfish wants and deeds and is not trying to harm anybody, but just trying to get the gang back together.
No, sillies. I'm Baby, member. It's Susie and Tippy and Mumsy and Daddy and Baby together again forever and ever.
Now, right off the bat, I don't know if a lot of people caught this, and I certainly didn't catch this when I was a kid, but the play that the actors are walking out of is Death of a Salesman, which, if you know anything about theater, that story is about a man past his prime. It's about a man that is lived his whole life as a salesman, and all of his stories, he lives kind of this fantasy lifestyle of being this successful salesman and at the expense of his entire family.
Oh, it's me. Suddenly I realize I'm going 60 miles an hour and I don't remember the last 5 minutes.
I think it's really timely that this episode comes out now because it's dealing with this idea of a canceled sitcom that one of the actresses in there realizes that was the most important part of her life or really misses what she did on that show and is trying to get the gang back together.
Over the years, I remembered how happy I was with all of you around me and the folks at home watching me each week. Me.
Baby Doll.
I'm sure when they wrote this episode, they had no idea that would actually be going on, and not in a malicious way. But now we're just in the age of reboots. We're taking these old shows that weren't necessarily canceled, but ended, and rebooting them with the same cast, and the actors are now older, and they're telling different stories from their perspective of being older. And of course, Fuller House on Netflix, I think, might have been the first one to really tackle this idea of going back to the same storyline, and now everybody's aged up, and now the kids are the adults. At the time that this episode was written, that was unheard of. So the idea of the show's canceled, it's over, and that part of your life is gone was very much a real idea in this.
I remember this show from when I was a kid. It still stinks.
There's also another layer that's pretty neat about this, that they're telling a story from the perspective of child star, one being an actress that is physically stuck in a child's body and is mentally stuck in that moment of playing a child on television. And I think that's a very real topic. We've seen it before. We've heard the stories about these child stars that grow up in the spotlight and under a tremendous amount of pressure and fame, and kind of lose themselves and kind of struggle later on in their life. And yes, there's some of them that have been arrested and turned to crime and things like that. I don't think any of them kidnapped co-stars and tried to recreate their shows, but the idea is kind of a neat springboard for this episode.
Now I'm baby for good and everyone will love me again. Hugs, hugs.
The character of Baby Doll and herself sort of reminds me of Elmira from Tiny Toons a little bit.
And I'll still love you and hug you and squeeze you all to bits.
And then also there's a lot of similarities in this with the Gray Ghost, that they also in this episode go back to the archives and pull these episodes, and Robin begrudgingly has to sit down and watch all these episodes looking for clues.
Remember that time Poison Ivy nearly smothered us in those vines with the really sharp thorns?
Yes.
This is worse.
And this episode builds to a great climax where they finally kidnap the cousin and have him on set and are going through the motions with that. And it's revealed that that is Robin in disguise, and he had a tracking device, which is what brought Batman there. But the episode's not over yet. Once again, Batman tells Robin to stay back.
Get the hostages out. I'll go after Doll.
And as he's chasing her through this, and then right there at the end, they hit you with this really kind of emotional moment where we find out that Baby Doll has just been doing this because she just wants to go back to that moment in her time, and she regrets leaving the show and getting it canceled for other ventures when she realized that that was the best time of her life.
That's me in there. The real me. There I am. But it's not really real, is it? Just made up and pretend like my family and my life and everything else.
It's kind of emotional because I think in part it is the idea of doing a show like this, of going back to my childhood and watching a show that I grew up on as a way of reconnecting with that. And I think as we get older, that's the desire, that's the interest, to go back home, to go back, experience things that we were familiar to us when we were younger. And a lot of times we don't appreciate what we have when we were younger until we get older and we're removed from that we realize that those were really great times. And I think that they touch on this in this episode in a really emotional way. So when it comes time to rank this episode, it's a lot of fun. It checks off a lot of those boxes that we're looking for in great episodes. It's an interesting character. It's an interesting story. It's got a little bit of heart in it at the end. It's got a great adventure to it. I think the parts that it struggles is, honestly, I find the Baby Doll character a little annoying more than threatening. And this whole plot of her kidnapping these actors didn't really seem to justify Batman being involved in that. Commissioner Gordon had figured out that these actors were being kidnapped, and he kind of did the police work. It seems like he could have just as easily went and found them himself. But for all those reasons, this episode falls somewhere in the middle at the number 30 spot of my favorite episodes. It falls just below Read My Lips because I think Scarface is a much more entertaining villain to watch than Baby Doll. But it does beat out Pretty Poison, which is a great episode as well. But this episode just sort of has more of a unique story in that.
We were just playing characters in a TV show.
It was real to me.
So what do you think would make Baby Doll a better villain? She's got the tragic story. She's got a unique characteristic about her. That was a tough word to say. But what else could they have done with the character so that she's maybe more of a threat to Batman or more of a challenge to Batman? Because right now she falls more in the just sort of an inconvenience to Batman than anything else. Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button. If you want to see more of these episodes, hit subscribe because we have new episodes coming out every Tuesday and Thursday. And we have a new episode coming out Thursday with Time Out of Joint. As always, I'm Andy Knode. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon. But it turns out that